Hi, friends. This is Aiden. Welcome to the Beyond Stigma show. I am here with my new friend Andreina, all the way from Canada. Can you please tell us the name of the place in Canada that you stay?
Hi, Adin. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I live in a small city called Port Coquitlam, and it is located in what is called the Lower Mainland, the Vancouver Lower Mainland. So it's Vancouver and all the cities around. So that's where I'm. That's where I am.
Thank you for tuning in all the way from Vancouver, Canada. Um, First of all, I want to say to the people listening that I'm very grateful to have Andreina being interviewed with me today because usually it's me talking about my story, but now I get to be sitting on the other end of the conversation and be hearing about someone else's story. So I wanted to say thank you so much, Andreina, for being willing to be interviewed. One of the things that I've tried to do with Beyond Stigma is I've started a campaign of coming out where I have been hoping for people with mental illness to go public with their diagnosis and to do that on social media using the hashtag I have a mental illness. So far, not many people have taken me up on that invitation. So
Okay.
you being willing to be interviewed means a lot to me. So thank you.
Oh no, thank you for the opportunity. This is major, and yeah, I appreciate it very much.
Okay, fantastic. So let's start with the first question.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that fighting stigma is important?
Wow. Great question. I think having a mental illness on itself is already very tough.
Very tough.
It's already very difficult.
Correct.
You're already fighting for your daily survival in a way, depending on the severity of your illness.
Yeah.
So that unto itself is extremely difficult. Now, what the stigma adds to the illness is that you have to suffer alone, in silence, sometimes in shame.
Mm-hmm.
So it compounds, it adds to the difficulty of the illness that you can't find any relief in sharing this. When you get a cold, people are sympathetic
People
and
after
want to
you.
yeah, people come for you, right? And they say, what do
Make
you
you soup.
need? Make you soup or bring you hot chocolate, or when you're sick in the hospital and you broke a leg, or unfortunately you have some other illness and you're in a hospital, people visit it, comfort you, and that takes some of the stress, right, of your whatever you're going through, your illness, or you feel supported. But then when you have a mental illness and the stigma doesn't allow you to share that pain either with your immediate family or your friends or your colleagues, it makes it much harder because you're suffering alone.
Yeah, I hear you. Um, so what diagnosis or diagnoses do you live with?
Yeah, I felt a little bit, and that's part of the whole journey, that, oh my goodness, my illness is not as severe because I'm doing well right now.
Yeah.
But if I look back, it has been severe. And what I've been diagnosed is depression,
Okay.
uh, severe depression. Um, and I think it has been part of my journey that I had not been diagnosed until when I was doing really, really, really bad. Like when I touched rock bottom, that's when I went out and looked for help. Um, so severe depression, but that's just the most recent. When I was very young, when I was a teenager, I was 13, I became anorexic. And then I was anorexic for a long time. Even through the time I moved to Canada, I was 19 and I moved to Canada and I was still dealing with anorexia. And then I came into a situation where that was completely unknown. Nobody knew what I was going through. So this was completely a secret. That turned into bulimia. It was only when I moved with my husband. We were living with his parents for that first year and a half of our marriage when we were very young. We married very young. I was 19. And then I moved to a different city, Vancouver, with my husband. I was 21 and he was 24, something like that. And the bulimia continued. It was very debilitating. And again, I had no medical support, nothing. I was just an immigrant. I had nothing. And it was only around 25, 26, from age 13, that I started to kind of take a hold of that situation, but on my own. I never had any support or help.
Wow.
With that. And around 25 years old, right when September 11 happened, I think I had my first very deep episode of depression. Again, I had no help. Looking back at the whole journey, I understand those moments now. Very severe. And again, I did it on my own, kind of, until I had my son at 33. So I had my son at 33, and I think now looking back, I was going through postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
Again, on my own, I sought help from my family doctor, but it was just kind of like on my own. I didn't have somebody sit me down and say, you have this, or, you know.
So you didn't have a diagnosis by that stage?
No, I mean, when I went to my doctor after I had my son, after several months, actually, not even a year or two, I was going through a lot of situational pressure. So it was more like a situational depression. It was the circumstantial.
Yeah.
However, I knew there was deep roots to this. I mean, I had been struggling for all my life, essentially. So I knew, yes, the situation was adding pressure. I had just brought my parents to Canada. My husband had lost his job. There was a lot of things happening. And, I had some help, but I felt very discouraged. I didn't feel that I was taking seriously enough, even though I had some help. So, I had some support a little bit here and there, but very temporary. Sort of like a little, somebody did a study with me, like a little assessment, and that was it. And then we were trying to have a second baby, and I had 3 miscarriages in a row.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, nobody knows that really outside my family circle. I think that was that was 3 years in a row. 3, and I think that was the sort of like that was the rock bottom. And that's when I was really exteriorizing a lot of anger, mainly against my husband. It was just, it was really, really bad after that. And it ended up in, New Year's Eve with my family, me screaming across the parking lot just before the Christmas Eve, the New Year's Eve party, me screaming at them for some little fight that I had with my dad, and me screaming, we leaving the party. So that was the absolute worst. And that's when my family said, my sister and myself said, you are not doing well. You have to go and find help. Yeah. And that was maybe 2016.
Okay. Do you feel that your life has been particularly challenging because of the fact that you've been needing to deal with both depression and the eating disorders?
I will say so, yeah. And just the misunderstanding, the lack of knowledge. It's not that people are purposely not kind. It's just that people don't know, right? They haven't read, or there's just no information. And if you're not, or somebody near you is not going through it, you won't necessarily seek out that information. So that feeling of loneliness, that you are alone, and just just navigating all that. But somehow I was able to, but the thing is, you might feel that you're doing better, but it comes back, as it happened with me. It obviously came back to a crushing, like, you need to pay attention to this. Even though I thought I had gotten over that. And in between, I had all those, I had all kinds of, the thing is, I was never diagnosed with that, but I had all kinds of OCD tendencies, all kinds of things that I've done in my life that have made it very hard. Like, for example, not, for a long time, I didn't sleep a lot because I didn't feel I deserved sleeping. For, all those tendencies. Of course, I started eating, but then I stopped sleeping. Of course, I started eating, but my house had to be perfect. So it manifested in different ways. So yeah, throughout, I feel my life has had some challenges that added to battling that on kind of your own. Oh, for sure.
Talking about to suffer alone, it's not that I found that it's not that people don't care.
Yeah.
It's they don't know how to care. And it's because up until very recently, people didn't talk about mental illness. So what we're doing now, having a frank, open conversation about it, I'm hoping will do even just a little bit to fight stigma, because I think that a lot of the stigma that people with mental illness have to face, it's not even so. Like, if you face it from a person you meet on the street, or your brother or your father or whoever it's from, it's not even their fault. No. Because they just don't know any better. They don't understand.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think that's a key part of sort of if we are trying to break the stigma, it's because we're trying to educate. Oh.
No.
Sorry, my screen, sorry. I'm just going to fix that. Got a message. All right. Yeah, I think that's the key of breaking the stigma, is that you start by sort of educating your family, your close friends, and then your colleagues, and then because it's exactly that. It's not that they don't care; they don't know how to care. They don't know how to help you. For sure.
Your email to me, you're from Venezuela. You mentioned that Venezuela might not be the most open-minded society. Was it easy to, firstly, with your family, how was it when your diagnosis came out? How was your family with you, and how are people back home treating you?
Yeah, Venezuela is not the most progressive society. I mean, I moved, like you said, 24 years ago. So a lot has changed. A lot remains the same. So my experience has mostly been outside of Venezuela. And however, when I was 13, my mom, she's a university professor. I did receive help then for the anorexia. Still huge stigma, but my mom, she, and my aunt is a sociologist, so they kind of jump on it. However, when I moved to Canada, I was on my own. I no longer had them to kind of help me. So my biggest difficulty has been my family. My biggest difficulty has been making them understand. For example, Venezuelan culture is a lot about getting together, large gatherings, family gatherings, being together a lot. Not like meeting every 2 weeks, no, meeting every Friday. It's like a constant connection. So it was very difficult. So yeah, that's just one example. Very difficult to make them understand, you know what? I can't see you tonight. I can't fake. I won't be able to talk. I won't be able to have a conversation. And I'm a very talkative. I can say I like to talk a lot. So people will notice immediately if I'm not participating in the conversation. So it was really difficult. And that's just, again, one example. Say, I can't go to the birthday party tonight. I just can't. And that's like, no, how can you not go to your cousin's birthday party? I mean, it's like, no. To make them understand that I would love to be there. I just, I'm in bed. I can barely get up. So it's slowly making them understand, you know what? I can't be here today. I'm not feeling well. And for them trying to, but, it's complex because, we are Catholics, I'm a majority Catholic country. God and religion has a huge part in, but, those questions, but how are you feeling? Well, I'm not great. But how can you be feeling that way? Aren't you thankful of your son? How could you have a beautiful husband in a beautiful house? And it's like, well, of course I'm thankful for those things. So trying to have those conversations that it's not about religion or it's about an illness. It's like, I'm not feeling well. So slowly educating my family. And the complication for me, and I'm not sure, I don't know many stories like mine, it manifested with a lot of anger. I will scream. And people's like, I will scream. So I will offend people. I will say terrible things. And then I will have to go and repair those things.
Okay.
So it was terrible. So letting them make them understand that this was not me. This was the illness. Making them understand that this was because I was pressured to be there. It usually happened when I was pressured to be in a place.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, it's like I couldn't. It's like it was just unbelievable. Like I couldn't hide it anymore. So it took several years. Since at least 10 years since my son was born until now to kind of make those closer to me. Venezuelan.
Yeah.
That this is how depression manifests. This is depression. And now I'm quite open with them. Now I can tell them, I can go to the, to this occasion or that dinner. I can't see you tonight. I can talk on the phone.
They understand.
Oh, absolutely. But it took a long time, right? It took a long time. And when I finally went to get help for depression and I got medication, I think that made it even easier for them. So they responded well. I think that was your initial question. They responded well and with understanding. Now it's the rest of the world, right?
So that's step one is your family. Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you have that at least. But it's not just your family that don't understand. Unless someone has a close friend or a family member that has a mental illness, there's no reason for people to know about it because it's not really on the news or TV or movies. It's not in the culture. And what I found is that a lot of people really don't understand what depression is. Mm-hmm. They can accept it. So I think it's a situation with your family where they've accepted that you have a mental illness called depression, but I don't know that they can fully understand it because it's something that's just so difficult to explain. What does depression feel like to you?
Wow. Yeah, it changes, right? I'm gonna try to explain it the best way I can. I am somebody who loves beautiful things. I'm somebody who loves movies and art and visual arts and music a lot, like deeply. Like I write about it. These are things that I'm so passionate about that bring me happiness, really understanding. These are things that are hugely important for me. So one way that it manifests for me is that I no longer have any desire for these things. It's like I see no more colors. It's like nothing speaks to me. And at times I haven't even realized, and it's just looking back and thinking, my goodness, I was not doing well at that time. I love nature and flowers, and I remember doing this trip with my husband and my son, which is what I love the most, like a little road trip somewhere, and me just staying in the car. I just couldn't even get out of the car.
Yeah.
To go see these interesting ruins that we were going to see, which I love. I love history. It was just when I lose even the pleasure, when there's nothing, there's no feeling, there's nothing. So that's one way. And the other way, which is I'm still trying to figure out, it was that anger towards my husband. It was directed at him. I will fight, I will scream. I felt that I wasn't heard by him. And I hurt him a lot with my words and, the screaming, and a lot of that happened in front of my little son, which I have to work on repairing, right, for the rest of my life. So it manifested that way as well, and screaming matches with my parents too, at the very beginning, because I felt they didn't understand. So mainly is that inability to engage with the world, inability to find pleasure in the things that I love, and it's like you're completely shut off from feeling.
Yeah. So the people that are watching this, depression isn't something that you can just snap out of. There's a biological cause to the way that we're feeling. And that's what I wish for people to understand. Someone once said, and I wish I can remember who told me this, but someone described depression to me, and I think it's perfect, as the physiological inability to experience joy. And yeah, it's a good one, hey?
It's perfect.
It's pretty spot on. Yeah. So I can totally connect with what you're saying about losing your desire and losing your connection to your things that you're passionate about. It makes complete sense. Getting from just having spoken to you for a short time that you're in a good space now. How are you doing with regards to your mental illness now? Are you completely over the eating disorders, or is that something that you still struggle with? How's your mood at the moment?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. The eating disorders, is complex because that's a continuum for so many women. Even if they're not diagnosed with anorexia or bulimia, lots of women experience, and men as well. It's true that men, but I would say women in larger numbers with body issues and never finding a healthy space for the relationship with food. So I will say that's been, I think I overcame that. I think I have a very healthy relationship with food, not the healthiest relationship with my body, but that's consequence of many other issues in society. I will say, in terms of the depression, ups and downs. I recently quit my job, and that was in October. I had a very good, well-paying job. Well, not well-paying. I had a very good, fulfilling job that I loved, that I had been doing for 8 years. Unfortunately, I wasn't well paid. It was a sort of like a sad situation. But anyway, I wanted to explore other things. I wanted to explore what I really love, which is writing. So I went and I said, this is it. This is my time. So dealing with that has been a little bit difficult, but I understand that it's just a situation. The feelings of worthlessness, of did I make a mistake? So I've had quite dark periods since then. That was October. I have had quite dark moments for sure, but I'm under medication. I'm taking a very small dose of antidepressant. It's quite light, so that really helps. It's funny because people who are on medication sometimes fight it, and I fought it too. It's like, it's so easy to take it, but I still fight it. It's like, I don't want to take this anymore, and I make the mistake of, I can handle this on my own. Still, I have this illusion that I can manage it on my own, and I stop for a week. And
we stigmatize ourselves, Andreina. We stigmatize ourselves. because we don't want to admit that we have a problem, so we don't want to take the medication. I've tried to go off medication more than once. I'm bipolar, and I went off medication about 4 years ago and I went off for a year and a half, and I was great for a year and a half, except for when I had to white knuckle through the difficult times. And I thought that I had grown enough as a human being to not be triggered to have another episode. But I had another manic episode, and it was a big, huge, scary one that I made a lot of trouble and hurt people that mattered to me, in particular my parents. So now I'm a friend of the medication. I'm so grateful for my medication, and I encourage, if anyone's watching that has a mental illness, please have a good relationship with your doctor and have a good relationship with your medication, because it's very important.
Thank you for saying that, because yeah, it absolutely, and in your case is absolutely necessary. And I am working on having that good relationship with my medication. And the thing is, I feel that it made me gain weight, all kinds of things, but I've said it many times, I don't care if I'm happy, if I'm healthy. What is a few pounds? It changed my physical appearance, and added weight and stuff, but I am a good friend of it, and I feel quite foolish every time I try to drop it. So with this pandemic and that we're going through this, I feel both very lucky and also vulnerable to what's happening. I feel lucky in the sense that I'm aware of mental illness and that I can see the signs in me and other people. And it's like, this is tough. What we're going through is difficult. Yeah, right. So I feel very lucky that I'm aware and that I see the signs like, Andreina, this is completely normal. And I can sort of help people around me, like acknowledge your feelings, grieve, do that little work, be kind to yourself with what you're going through, and so on. So I feel very lucky, but also vulnerable, because I know the little triggers. I mean, the end of the world kind of feeling. There will be no more joy in the world. Those doom, feelings. I feel very vulnerable to those, So, and now with everything that's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement happening and gaining more steam, it's been quite triggering too, right? Like a up and down. But again, I'm very lucky now that I've educated myself, that I have a diagnosis, and I can openly say, you know what, this is impacting me, and hopefully help other people navigate, because I have a little bit of insight. I have a little bit of insight on what it is to live life not feeling great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling today?
Oh, today I'm excited to be talking to you. I'm just excited. It's just one of those things. Conversations is one of my passions, so I'm just very happy. It's a good day today. It was not a great day yesterday, but I take it one day at a time.
So do you have good days and bad days, or do you have cycles of up and then down? How does it work for you? So when was the last time that you would say that you felt severely depressed?
Yeah, it was, I will say, and I did a little post about it on social media, because I've been trying to be really open about it to my few friends and family who follow me, right? At least I'm putting that little seed there, right? I will say it was just before the pandemic kind of hit. It was just maybe end of February, mid-February, end of February. That was and I couldn't go to my dad's birthday party, and so that was it. And then it's been better since then, for sure.
So my next question is, How do you lift yourself out of a depressive state? Do you just rely on medication, or do you do things over and above the medication to make yourself feel better? So I'm talking about things like exercise, eating well, those types of things.
Yeah. Oh, good question. I think that's a very practical question. I'm not a practical person. It's like you have to hit me over the head with things for me to get it. I'm bad with exercise. However, at that time, let's use that as an example, because I'm gonna use that little period as an example of what I did. I was working from home. I had a little contract for writing, and I was writing for a website, and I was having a really hard time doing anything at home. So just before everything closed, I took my laptop to the library, so I could write there. I was taking my son to and from school, so doing those little walks. So the steps I took was I recognized it, I acknowledged it, and I said, okay, let's take some more healthier habits. Let's go outside. So I pushed myself because I knew you're falling into the hole.
Yeah.
So I took some little practical steps. Like I took my laptop to the library, and when I was able to work for 8 hours straight, I felt great. So that helped me.
Yeah.
That helped me feel a little better. It's like, okay, you're at least you complete a whole day of work. You can do the next. I talked to my parents. I posted on social media, which is weird. I'm not sure why.
Why is that weird?
I don't know. Because it's like, yeah, because
Social media was designed for authentic people. It's been hijacked by superficial people that create fake posts to make themselves look good. It was intended for authentic people to share their lives authentically. So
that's into
high
that.
five to you. High five to you for sharing when you weren't feeling well.
I deeply believe now that we have to speak out. I so believe in it. So yeah, so so at that time I did those three things. Yeah, I could exercise more. I also bake a lot. I love baking.
Fantastic.
So I will bake. However, I haven't been able during this whole time of the pandemic to do one of the things that I love the most, and I'm exploring that in my next podcast, is that I haven't been able to listen to music. So I'm doing other things. I'm doing like baking, writing, and just trying to do one healthy thing. For me, that was not necessarily exercising. It was sort of like taking me out of the house.
Okay.
And just being able to accomplish a little bit made me feel much more hopeful. And
I find I was depressed a few weeks ago, and I found that even when I didn't feel like it, that literally just showing up makes a difference. So even though my brain is telling me that I don't want to do anything, especially the things that are good for me, I've actually recently found a health coach. I'm life coaching a dear woman, my ex-girlfriend, in fact. I'm life coaching her, and she's health coaching me in exchange. And she's challenged me to not sleep, or even when I'm tired and all I want to do is sleep. And just getting up and showing up is often the best medicine.
True. Yeah.
I've got a serious question for you now. I don't know how depressed you get, but have you ever felt suicidal?
Yes.
Have you ever come close?
No.
Okay.
But when I was 13 and I had no idea, Oh, actually, I'm gonna take that back. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I had to take a minute.
No problem. Take your
When I
time.
was when I was 13 and 14 and 15 and going through anorexia, I cut myself.
Okay.
Only as an adult I understood, and I haven't even explored this, that that's a thing. It's a thing that that's how the pain manifests itself. I will wear long sleeves all the time, and I used to live in this hot city, Maracaibo, and people will say, "Why do you wear those? You know, you always wear those long sleeves." I cut myself, so my arms were all cut. When I moved to Canada, and this is gonna be so sounds so stupid, and I married. It's a little bit of a story. My boyfriend moved with his family to Canada. I was 18 and he was 21, and we made each other a promise. He will come back to marry me, or because my mom kind of forced us to marry. The only way I could go to Canada was if he came back to and marry me. So we said, okay, sure, we'll do it because we want to be together. So he came back a year later. We married very young. We didn't necessarily want to, but that was a condition. So we moved together to Quebec, Canada. And we lived for the first year and a half with his parents in their little home. We were all recent immigrants, which is already very tough. It's already a difficult thing. And we were nearly wet, living with his parents, and I had a mental illness. So it was not the happiest time for me, even though I was a newlywed. So the first year and a half of our marriage is kind of like not the best, even though we had great times. And one night, still living there in their home, I was just so done. And I had no medication. I had nothing. I was just an immigrant. I had nothing. I had no access to medicine, nothing. I think there was a bottle of Advil or Tylenol or some sort of thing. I drank the whole thing in the hopes that that will do something for me. Maybe my kidneys, something. I thought, okay, a huge doses of any medication is going to be bad for you. So I did it. Nothing happened. I woke up. Obviously, it's not a lethal medication. I think you have to eat, like, consume a huge amount.
Yeah.
But that shows the desperation that I was going through. So yeah. Then in 2016, I think it was after those three miscarriages, I had been trying to get my driver's license, and I still don't have it. And I'm 43. It's a long story too. Maybe I had the one miscarriage or two, and I had my exam, the actual driving test with somebody. It went really badly, really, really badly. That was a breaking point for me. I haven't actually moved on for that. In fact, I've never picked up the keys again. And that was a serious day. When I just wanted to. Okay. And it was not the driving test itself. It was what it means. I'm not independent. I felt again. I think that was the third time I felt again. How is it possible? How am I going to support my parents? How am I going to take care of all the things that meant me failing. So I haven't touched the keys since then. So I have to get over that. But that day I seriously consider it. However, I have a loving family. So what I did that day was I severely abused myself. I punched myself. I scratched. I didn't take any medication or decided to end it, but because I love my parents and they were right here. But I seriously had those thoughts, like, it will be better. It will be better if I would just go, perhaps, for everybody. And I didn't take any. I didn't have anything to do it, and I wasn't. But I punched myself. I scratched my I punched my I punished myself to the point that next day I had to wear this long neck because I had purple scratched all over my body. That was the hate I had. It was so profound. I could, if I was alone in different circumstances, if I didn't have my family here living with me.
I have to agree with you. I must agree with you because I was suicidal for about a year. But a doctor explained to me once the difference between suicidal ideation and suicidal intent. I'm blessed that I only endured suicidal ideation because all I did was think about it most of a year. And
wow.
I didn't do it because I couldn't think of how to do it in a way that wouldn't hurt my family. And if I could have come up with a good enough note so that my parents wouldn't have had to feel worse, if they could have just dealt with losing a son, but not losing a son to suicide, if I could somehow, so like I would drive my dad's car when he would let me, I don't have my own car, and I'd drive my dad's car. I would drive without the seatbelt, hoping that I would get into an accident so that I could die by accident and not have to take my own life. But for a long time, I had a death wish more than I wanted to kill myself. I just wanted to die for a long time. But I couldn't do it because my family is too good to me.
I am so sorry to hear that.
Don't be sorry. Thank
I'm
God
so
for
happy. Thank God. And I'm so happy that you were able to do that.
Lighten the conversation a little bit. Thank you for being so brave.
Yeah.
Thank you for being brave with that. The last question I want to ask you is, how do you deal with mental health issues while being a parent?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. It's not easy. However, but kids are a great, antidote. I don't know how to put let me find a better word. When you're suffering from mental illness, depression, suicidal ideations, you have a physical manifestation right there next to you of what's worth living for. You know, the love of a child is so profound, is so mysterious, that no matter how dark your mind is, usually, I mean, of course, there are people who have not survived their mental illness and they were parents. There's obviously lots of people who did not survive their illness. But usually, for me, he brings me back from the brink. I've done a lot of damage to that little boy by screaming that the period of my life when this house was in disarray because of my illness. So I have to repair that. There's many aspects, first of all, he's a salvation. He brings me from the brink every time because he's innocent. He's so beautiful. When I tell him, I'm not feeling great, he does everything to make me feel better. And he asks me, how you feeling? How can I help you? He's the sweetest. And just my fight for him. There's something stronger than anything when you're a parent, which is just to protect that kid. So that need is stronger than pretty much anything. The other thing is there's a huge fear for me, huge, that I have either caused him to have a mental illness in the future, that he will suffer from what I've suffered. That's one of my hugest, biggest fears. And yeah, so it's that just, if I pass this on to him, either physiologically, he will have a sort of the same brain. Uh, I don't know how to explain it. He will have physiologically picked up on that as well. He will have an imbalance that he will require medication, or my own illness, what imprint that left on him.
Wow.
So as a parent, I just work very much he's a boy in this very patriarchal culture and society. So I try to teach him, and I that's one of the principles of how I want to live is kindness, understanding, show your feelings, show your emotions, talk to me about them. There's nothing wrong with feeling sad. So early, I'm trying to teach him to be in touch with how he's feeling, because especially for men in our culture, it's extremely difficult for men to talk about what they're going through, either good or bad, especially the bad. And if it's a mental illness and they don't express it, it can get worse. So I'm really making an effort to raise him to be a healthy, emotionally and psychologically human being. Yeah, and yeah, I strive to get better when I'm in depression, and in that post I did in February, it was about him. Because he brought me back as well. I didn't mention it, but just the fact of being there, that I have to be that. We're very close. He's an only child. Yeah, so there's the fear, but there's the light.
Yeah.
There's the hope. It's not an easy task. So I think education, age-appropriate education for me will be key.
Yeah.
For him moving forward. So as parents with mental illness, we have to be very aware and definitely work so that they don't go what we went through.
Okay, so you recommend that I have kids?
Kids, no, I don't recommend to anybody. That has to come from really deep within.
No, it's because I want kids.
Yeah.
My adult life has been a bit of a challenge because of being bipolar. I've had insecurities and self-confidence issues and things like that. So I haven't had many romantic relationships. And I haven't been well for so much of my adult life that romantic relationships haven't been easy. So I don't have a wife, and I don't have, like, my longest relationship is under 2 years in my whole life. And I ache for children. I would love to have children, but I also have that fear that I'm going to breed mentally ill children, and I don't want to put children through what I've been through. So it's a very difficult one.
Can I tell you about how I decided?
Yeah.
I never wanted children. My husband and I were married for 13 years before we finally decided. I was mainly rejecting all the mommy culture. I found it really not appealing to me. And I asked myself a question. When you are 50, Andreina, when you are 50, would you look back and say, I wish I had experienced that? And I said, yeah, as a human being, not so much as a woman, as a human being, the experience of being a parent is part of the human experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to have the fullest. That's my husband there. I want to have the fullest human experience, and I'm a woman and I'm married and I'm able to have that complete human experience of being a parent.
I'm jealous.
I'm gonna do it. And we were lucky, and we had this one son, and then you know what happened after. So that was it. So I do not regret it in the least. Obviously, it is difficult, but if you ask yourself that question, and the answer is yeah, I want to, you know, that child will love you because you are his parent or her parent. Or
I'm very excited. My sister's about to have a baby.
oh,
She's got about 60 days to go.
oh.
So it's just making me very broody.
But
Listen,
yeah, that's the sign. I think that's the sign for
yeah,
you.
I'm definitely broody. So listen, I'm glad that we're ending on a slightly upbeat note. I'm glad we're doing that. But I just want to ask you, not quite so much a question as much as, do you have anything that you would like to say to people that may be watching, and bearing in mind there might be people with mental illness or people without mental illness that know people with mental illness? What would you like people to, let's say someone knows someone with a mental illness but doesn't know that much about it. What advice do you have for a person who knows someone with mental illness?
Huh. Yeah, I would say compassion, first of all. I will say if that person is already, I think if that person is seeing somebody who might have a mental illness and that person is thinking mental illness, that person is already ahead of the game. That person is already not judging somebody's behavior as being rude or something. So that person is already moved on beyond that. That person is already knowing, oh my, this person might be experiencing some form of mental illness. So that person is already ahead of the game for that most people. That person that's experiencing mental illness perhaps is feeling very alone, and let's say it's a colleague, approach them with kindness and compassion and ask them, do you need help? You might be ill. Seek help. So I'm speaking from the point of view of somebody who's seen somebody experience a mental illness, because it took my sister to tell me, you have to go and get help.
Yeah.
Right? It took my sister. So she was that person. I will say if somebody's already saying, if somebody already suspecting of mental illness on somebody, I think it's already amazing. I think that person has gone beyond the stigma already. So that's fantastic. For somebody who doesn't have the word mental illness in their mind and are seeing somebody who's behaving in ways that are inappropriate, or you see that person extremely sad or depressed, or educate yourself and question yourself and question, why is this person doing this? It might not be that person is rude or evil or whatever it is, or selfish. It could be that person is experiencing something that I don't understand, mental illness. So educate yourself. But I will say for people who are experiencing depression, bipolar disorder, which might be difficult, or I don't know, I haven't experienced it. Of course, seek help as soon as you can. If you already are in there, seek help. Don't suffer alone. There are doctors, there are counselors, there are psychologists, psychiatrists right there to help you and help you heal. The information is there. Don't suffer alone. How long did I suffer alone?
Yeah.
So for the person who's suffering from a mental illness, seek the help.
Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it. Your life is worth it.
Yes.
And the person who's seen somebody suffering the mental illness, compassion. education. If you're inclined to help that person, my goodness, you might be, wow, thank you. You might be the person who brings that person to their path to healing. That's just, thank you so much, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Andreina, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, and I feel like I know you quite well now after this interview because you were so open with your sharing. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that anybody watching, if they are moved by this in any way, to please share this video because the more people that can see it, the more people we will hopefully get in our corner and fight the stigma that people are still facing at the moment. So like, comment, and share if you're watching. And thank you, Andreina. I'm going to stop recording now. Much love to you and your family. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me.